Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today is Monday, February 5th, 2024. We welcome you to the February meeting of the Milford Board of Aldermen. Please join me as we salute our flag. Madam Secretary, will you please take the roll?
Alderman Archiola.
Present.
Alderman Beatty.
Present.
Alderman Bevan. Here. Alderman Casey.
Here.
Alderman Federico.
Here.
Alderman Fowler.
Here.
Alderman Healy.
Here.
Alderman Jenkins.
Here.
Alderman Marlowe.
Here.
Alderman Mulrennan.
Here.
Alderman Picelli.
Here.
Alderman Smith.
Here.
Alderman Vitro.
Here.
Alderman Vitale. Here. Alderman Willis.
Here.
All are present.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. We have 15 present. We do have a quorum. We now have a presentation from the mayor. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Vitro. Good evening. Welcome to City Hall. Tonight is a special occasion. We have our two cheerleading teams before us. The first one is the Milford Eagles Tiny Mite cheerleading team. Girls, please come forward. I see you got your medal. Come on. Sit right here. Line up right here. Good job. Wow, this is a big squad. Hello, how are you? Good to see you. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Good to see you. So this is the best part of being the mayor is you get to celebrate and congratulate young ladies that have done a great job representing our city and winning and competing. We're all very proud of you all. I have a proclamation for you. Whereas the 2023 Milford Eagles Tiny Mite cheerleading team, comprised of 21 cheerleaders, has brought honor and pride to themselves and to our community. And whereas the Tiny Mite cheerleaders placed first in show cheer at the state's competition, first in show cheer at the Southern Connecticut Pop Warner competition, and first in the sideline cheer at the regionals in Massachusetts. Wow, you guys, that's incredible. That's really incredible. I mean, I'm very impressed. I am very impressed. The team then traveled to Orlando, Florida, where they participated in the Nationals, placing first in show cheer, becoming national grand champions. I don't know, that's unbelievable. It really is, I gotta tell you. You guys should be very, very proud, and the coaches and the parents. This is a great thing tonight. We're making history tonight, ladies. This is history, okay? Whereas cheerleaders Emma, Liliana, Anna, Kylie, Emma, Aubrey, Emily, Havana, Adeline, Sydney, Sadie, Reese, Taylor, Carly, Camelia, Amelia, Sadie, Natalia, Sadie, Presley, together with head coach Tiffany, assistant coaches Courtney, Danielle, Janelle, Dana, Michelle, Harley, and junior coaches Alosi, Caroline, Mackenzie, assembled a winning combination through hard work, dedication, and enthusiasm, and competed in championship-level cheerleading as a testament to their own abilities, coaching expertise, and desire to win. Now, therefore, I, Anthony S. Ginatasio, Mayor of the City of Milford, Connecticut, by virtue of the authority vested in me and on behalf of all the citizens, do hereby extend congratulations to Milford Eagles Tiny Mite cheerleading team and extend this expression of our pride in their accomplishments and our appreciation for the fine manner in which they have represented our community. Ladies and gentlemen, the champions. So we're going to take a quick picture. Congratulations and thank you. Okay. Now we're going to jump into the junior varsity cheerleading team. Who's here from the junior varsity cheerleading team? Come on up, please. How are you? Nice to meet you. The 2023 Milford Eagles Junior Varsity Cheerleading Team, comprised of 21 cheerleaders, has brought honor and pride to themselves and to our community. And whereas the junior varsity cheerleaders placed first in show chair and sideline chair at the state's competition, second in show chair and first in sideline chair at the Southern Connecticut Pop Warner competition, and first in sideline chair at the regionals in Massachusetts. The team then traveled to Orlando, Florida, where they participated in the Nationals, placing sixth in the sideline chair with an impressive score of 91. Wow. That's quite an achievement. Whereas cheerleaders Kaylania, Ariella, Olivia, Violet, Alexis, Gianna, Emma, Mia, Liani, Sydney, Cheyenne, Jack, Mackenzie, Myra, Cara, Ella, Paige, Johanna, Jenna, Alexandra, Ashley, Elania, together with Coach Brenda, assistant coaches Morgan, Erica, Amber, Tiffany, and Karen, junior coaches Kaylin, Sarah, and team parents Kelly and Erica, assembled a winning combination through hard work, dedication, and enthusiasm, and competed in championship-level cheerleading as a testament to their own abilities, coaching, expertise, and desire to win. Now, therefore, I, Anthony S. Ginatasio, Mayor of the City of Milford, Connecticut, by virtue of the authority vested in me and on behalf of all our citizens, do hereby extend our congratulations to Milford Eagles Junior Varsity Cheerleading Team and extend this expression of our pride in their accomplishments and our appreciation for the fine manner in which they have represented our community. A big round of applause. We know in life we need more cheerleaders, right? That's very important. So I'm really impressed, and I got to tell you, I'm truly grateful. You guys did a great job. I'm so proud of you, and keep up the good work. So thank you, and everyone, for coming. This is a great event. Thank you. So thank you all for coming, the parents and the cheerleaders. Once again, congratulations. Have a good evening.
How are you?
Chairman Vitro, may I call for a recess while the mayor goes out on the front for his photo op?
Yeah, it'll be out in a minute. Want a 5-minute recess? The next portion of the meeting is devoted to public comment. Statements are strictly limited to the legislative function of the Board of Aldermen. Please use every effort to limit public speaking to the permissible business of the Board of Aldermen. The time limit granted to each speaker shall be 3 minutes. Residents, taxpayers, and electors may address the board at this time. The board encourages speakers not to express derogatory, insensitive, or offensive statements or to engage in personal attacks against individuals. In order to allow everyone an opportunity to speak, I'd ask that everyone please limit their comments to 3 minutes. And anyone wishing to address the board can do so at this time. Please state your name and address for the record and for the secretary. Thank you.
Good evening. Andrew King, 32 Cedarhurst Lane. Mr. Chairman, former interim mayor Rich Smith spoke last month on several board and commission members he felt should be reappointed. Who he neglected to speak on is the excellent nominees that Mayor Gennatasio put forward. Nominees that this board did not give due consideration to. I would like to speak about some of those good people. First, I'd like to talk about Kim Jenkins, who is up for the Animal Shelter Commission. Kim works with special needs children and is a hands-on volunteer with a horse rescue operation. Kim wanted to combine her love of animals and do her part for the city. Secondly, I'd like to talk about Vincent Averamo for the Fire Commission. Vincent is an experienced litigator. He has been honored numerous times for volunteerism. He has worked with the Chamber of Commerce, Milford Progress, and the Boys and Girls Club. Finally, I'd like to talk about Scott Montefiore for Parks and Recreation, known to many as Coach Scott. He is the director of Junior Major League Baseball, and no one is more knowledgeable about the needs of the city where it concerns local sports. When people ask me about Scott, I tell people that Scott is a doer. Other people talk about doing things, Scott does. There are several more people that were not given a fair vote, but they asked me not to name them. They felt that they had been embarrassed enough by this board. All they wanted to do was serve the city and have a fair vote on their qualifications. Much like former interim mayor Rich Smith received from this previous Board of Aldermen, a vote that crossed party lines. Despite Alderman Beatty last month saying that this wasn't about politics, we all know it's about politics. When the former interim mayor gives a list of names in his public comment, and the Democrat side of this board votes to ensure that those people get reappointed, it's politics. When the Democrat side of this board won't vote on a nominee to ensure that a Democrat town committee chairman, Nyjah Phelps, gets reappointed to her second commission seat, it's about politics. The candidates Mayor Gennatasio nominated were qualified. Alderman Beatty admitted that as well last month. Those nominees deserve to vote on their merit and qualifications. I truly hope this board will not do the same tonight to these nominees and just continue the political game at the expense of the city. Thank you very much.
My name is Mark Rusanowski. I live at 201 Wolf Harbor Road. The Community Garden Program has recently come under siege with an unprecedented surprise back-to-back increase in the registration fee many participants simply can't add to their overall costs. Normally, we are made aware of an increase in September before the program ends for the season. The program has existed since 1968 and is the oldest of its kind in the state. Former Director Ed Austin started it after a suggestion was made that a program like this would be of great benefit to our community if made available. This is completely different from the garden club that exists in the city, so please don't confuse the two. This drastic increase could easily be a program killer. Why would we want to destroy such a successful, long-lived program when other avenues could be utilized to offset the costs the Recreation Department is concerned with? The whole idea was that for an affordable registration fee, just to participate in the program, citizens of Milford who would like space to garden would get access to a 20 by 30 foot space where they could supplement their food sources, and that grown and cared for by their own hands. To date, there are 125 plots and 275 participants in the program. The Plant-A-Row, or PAR program, is also in force and provides area food banks with vegetables grown specifically for donation. Other benefits include social, exercise, even a bit of mental peace, plus program-run talks on how-to tips and the like. We have also provided assistance to other communities on why what we do works so well. Early on, the city provided plowing until their equipment broke. My father took over plowing for many years until permanent plot locations were made some 30 years ago in an effort to decrease the setup time each year as everything had to be cleared for plowing. Water tanks with piping had been provided for gravity-fed water, and the city filled these tanks at no charge. This method updated when city water from the park entrance feed was run to the area and permanent water lines were installed throughout the space the same time the plots became static. Much of this work was done by participants in the program. Other improvements over the years were made to the area, including a perimeter fence to provide security and to keep a variety of pests at bay. This also prevents illegal dumping. The majority of the fencing was funded by a garlic fundraiser run by program participants for several years, which has since been suspended due to the sheer magnitude of the work required to provide garlic for that event. To give you an idea, my family alone planted up to 7,000 of multiple varieties each year for the fundraiser, all done by hand. This was in addition to all the rest grown for this event. Lots of hard work got us here so far. This increase for people on fixed incomes would make it unaffordable to a fair portion of the current participants and is just unconscionable. This surprise increase is unfair and must be rescinded. Many people are poised to immediately drop out should it go forward. That would be unfortunate and frankly, a travesty. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Steve Hedis. I'm an avid community gardener. We're just following up on the same topic that we're talking about. I'm going to talk about the three major benefits of the Milford Community Garden. The first benefit is the garden is environmentally and ecologically friendly by preserving green spaces, improving air quality with no carbon footprint, using organic fertilizers and pesticides, no chemicals, no impact on groundwater, no soil residues. Providing a bee station and butterfly garden to encourage pollination, serving as a sanctuary for birds of all sizes that eliminate damaging insects and small garden pests, enriching the soil with natural composting. Number two, the benefit of the gardening participants benefit by outdoor recreation, connecting with nature, getting fresh air, sunshine, and plenty of physical activity, growing fresh, nutritious foods to stay healthy, thus reducing stress and anxiety, making new friends and socializing, learning and developing new skills by exchanging ideas with fellow gardeners on best ways to plant, grow, and harvest, acting as mentors for families and civic groups, scouts and school children, etc., by teaching children to grow their own food. This encourages healthy eating habits throughout their lives and potentially becoming future farmers. Supplementing food resources for those on fixed income, given the exorbitant cost of groceries today. It's also a benefit to the Milford community. The most important benefit to the city are to the food donations for the underprivileged. The supervisor of the recreation program works in the garden with help from numerous volunteers. They assist with the 5 park plots known as Plant a Row for the Hungry. These plots support the farm-to-table movement. Food donations supply 1,500 to 2,000 pounds of fresh produce to the Senior Center Food Bank, Bethel Shelter, St. Gabriel, Cornerstone, and other food pantries that depend on this assistance. Individuals, as ourselves, also donate. The community need for assistance is growing. In conclusion, the future of the community gardening is creating the new while preserving the old. Many communities throughout the country are recognizing the overwhelming benefits of community gardens. The USDA is actively promoting community gardens nationwide through the People's Garden Initiative. Abandoned lots are turning into gardens everywhere. A recently proposed new increase in Milford's garden program fee will have a negative impact. Fees are doubling to $100. Gardeners may drop out, thereby reducing volunteers and food donations to food banks, leading to less food and more people looking for government assistance. No Connecticut town or city has fees over $40. Our fees should be equitable. Again, I repeat, no Connecticut town or city has fees over $40. Thank you.
My name is Thomas King. I'm at 213 Buckingham Avenue. I was here to support Scott Mainfort for Parks and Rec. He's great with the kids and very knowledgeable with sports and very active in Milford. Thank you.
Hi there. I am Susan Stanek of 19 Noble Avenue, and I'm from the Animal Shelter Commission, although I'm not sure if that is even appropriate to say, but that is why I'm here. With my position apparently being in limbo, I decided to write a letter to the mayor a week ago, and I'm here to read it to you tonight. It is as follows. Dear Mayor Giannasio, I am writing to you regarding my position on the Animal Shelter Commission and to introduce myself and give you a glimpse of what I've accomplished in my position and what my future goals are. I have served for 8 years, the last 2 as vice chairperson. I am a hands-on commissioner. I not only attend monthly meetings and head up various subcommittees, I also volunteer at the facility and interact with the voiceless animals that I represent. Over the years, I have been involved with the renovation of the dog park, upgrades to the facility at Silver Sands, countless adoptions, including one that lives with me, hiring of trainers to help problem dogs, holding special meetings with the legal department to ensure all liability concerns are met, and allocating funds for heartworm tick flea prevention programs, helping find homes for domestic rabbits, and simply walking and playing with any impounded dogs as my schedule allows. There's an ongoing list of items that we are working on, including a better volunteer program, more upgrades to the facility, including a new HVA system that is imperative before the heat of summer arrives again. A law was recently passed regarding temperature guidelines in the kennels. Although I understand that you are able to appoint new people, I am highly disappointed that you would not consider reappointing me after many years of volunteer service or even meeting me first. Therefore, may I suggest that we meet, perhaps at the animal shelter, so you can see firsthand the issues that I fight for as a commissioner. And that invitation goes out to any and all aldermen. I would like to be reconsidered for reappointment, and I welcome your input. In addition to that letter, I'd like to say that I have read and heard that the commission being referred to as just or even the Animal Commission. And I take offense to that. Some of you may see that as a fluffy position for cat ladies and dog moms and dads, but I assure you that we are so much more. Did you know that with the leadership of former Commissioner Karen Dorney, we helped eradicate a feral cat community last year? This involves coordinating efforts with animal control officers, volunteers, trappers, and rescue groups. In the end, 40 cats were trapped, given medical attention, and adopted out. Not a small undertaking and not a pretty job. Did you know that 2 years ago we had a problem dog, not because he was vicious, but because his drive and focus was so strong that the trainer we hired thought he might be a candidate to be a search and rescue animal. After over a year at the shelter, he finally was placed with a rescue for rehabilitation and is now living life in a home, happy and safe. I wish I kept the jacket he ripped the sleeve off of while we played. Again, not because he was a killer, but because he needed the time and the patience and the resources that the commission supplied. So please don't underestimate what the Animal Commission is part of year in and year out. We take our commitment to helping the living, breathing beings in cages at Silver Sands right now very seriously. And I assure you the citizens of Milford are equally as passionate about animals and their welfare. Lastly, never in my time on the commission did politics come into play. Never ever did that impede us from doing the job we committed to. I only wish this room would work the same way. Thank you for listening.
This pertains to Benson Crump Memorial Community Garden. My name is William Damaraki. I live at 41 Maxwell Drive, Milford, 06461. I'm here to protest the exorbitant fee increase being imposed on the participants in the Benson Crump Memorial Community Gardens program this year. Over the past 11 years, I have been a member of this program. Fees have only been increased $5 to $10, and some years there were no increases. Last year, Milford residents went from $35 to $50. Now the fee is being doubled to $100 for 2024 season, an almost 300% increase since 2022. Bill Garfield cited two very large expenses as reasons for this increase: $5,000 for mowing the grass and landscaping, and $5,250 for removing trees and clearing area behind the garden, both which were outsourced. My question is, this work is not being done by the Milford Public Works Department, as is many owned fields and facilities. They mow the grasses on the soccer field next door to the community gardens and only have to open the gate and enter the garden to mow the grass, which is on the perimeter of the property and is less than half the size of the soccer field. The tree removal has been neglected for several years and should also be done by Public Works. Many of the trees have been marked as dead for several years, yet Public Works did nothing to take care of that, even though the dead trees pose a hazard to the gardeners and the citizens who use the walking path at Eisenhower Park, which runs along the back fence of the garden. Much of the day-to-day maintenance is done by the volunteer gardeners, such as putting wood chips on the paths, painting and maintaining the flower beds and gates. Gardeners are required to give 5 volunteer hours per season, but many actually give many, many more hours than that to help the upkeep. I personally perform maintenance on the weed whackers, push mowers, recoating the locks, and some of the plumbing, and I also did the mowing for many years, which took me about 5 hours per weekend. Some projects are performed by students from foreign high school to earn community service hours. Many other programs and facilities do not charge any fees at all to residents or non-residents, even though they have ongoing expenses to maintain them. We feel it is unfair to expect the fees paid by participants in this program to cover such large costs for work which should be performed by Public Works Department. I ask that the fees increased be reconsidered as unreasonable and excessive, especially after last year's increase. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Alderman members. It's with great pleasure that we recommend Scott Monforte to the position of Parks and Recreation Commission with Alderman approval for the town of Milford. Our friendship began 18 years ago when Scott became an important person in the lives of our grandchildren. We know Scott to be an exceptional father and role model. We met Scott when our grandchildren and his son were in elementary school. Scott's son and our grandchildren shared many pastimes together, but nothing compared to the love of baseball. To this day, our families continue this close relationship on a personal and professional level. Scott's passion for coaching baseball began in 1995 with JML. He coached all levels, from T-ball to tournament teams, including Babe Ruth, ages 13 to 15. As a former VP Babe Ruth commissioner to now in his current position of director of JML, Scott continues to dedicate his free time every weekend during spring and summer to support the well-being of the JML. Baseball days can be long and hot. Scott is a caring person and always made sure his team had the necessary nourishments and refreshments during home or travel games. If a teammate did not have a ride to attend practice, Scott went out of his way to provide transportation to assure everyone had the opportunity to participate. He mentored young and enthusiastic kids that led to winning the Baseball District and Pony Mustang state titles. As part of the league sponsorship committee, he worked tirelessly on the field and off to seek sponsors to ensure his kids had the proper uniforms and equipment to excel on the playing field. We have watched Scott instill confidence in the team players and take pride in teaching and guiding them to achieve their goals. In addition to his devotion to JML, Scott was also instrumental in the redirection of the Conklin and Wasson Field. Scott is an excellent role model and communicator. His knowledge, professional attitude, and leadership skills would be an invaluable asset to the Parks and Recreation Committee. He is focused and tenacious and will work hard to achieve the objectives at hand to benefit the Commission. We feel incredibly lucky to have Scott and his family as our friends. He is a quality person that is a highly respected member of the community and will no doubt make Milford proud. We hope you strongly consider the appointment of Scott Monforte to the role of Parks and Recreation Commitment. Donna and Bob Patchen, 356 Wheelers Farm Road, Milford. Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening. Tim Folsom, 11 Mills Avenue. I'm here to complain about the increase in the community garden fee. It was increased 43% last year, and it's going to go up 100% this year. The reasons stated were that the cost of $2,000 for a porta potty, $5,000 for cutting grass, $5,250 for clearing and seeding project, and $1,000 in miscellaneous expenses. Total $13,250. Why can't Public Works provide the grass cutting like they do for the rest of Eisenhower Park, the playgrounds, the dog park, the playing fields, etc.? The soccer field is literally adjacent to the gardens. Removing the $5,000 for grass cutting makes the community garden sustainable with no increase. The $5,000 in plot fees would cover the porta potty fees and the miscellaneous expense and leave $2,000 to pay towards the capital clearing seeding project. All these things I've mentioned, the playgrounds, the dog park, the playing fields, they're what makes Milford great. But the community gardens also makes Milford great. I really hope you consider rescinding this increase. Thank you.
Good evening, board members. I am Cheryl Goad of 554 Boston Post Road and a gardener at the Benson Crump Memorial Community Organic Gardens. Yearly, the supervisor of the garden mails out a permit contract of several pages explaining what can and can't be grown, lists responsibilities each gardener is required to maintain in both their garden plot and public areas, along with an agreement page that needs to be signed and mailed back with a check for the permit fee. As you've heard, past several years, this fee until 2022 was $35. It was then raised to $50 last year, and now a pending proposed $100 for 2024. Obviously, we gardeners are upset about this late notice increase, and several reached out to Parks and Recreation for an explanation prior to this meeting, including financial backup to support the significant increase. We were given a listing, which you've heard, that was proposed for 2024 expenses anywhere from $13,200 on up. And we were given, we were told there was no line item on the budget for the Parks and Recreation budget for the garden. So no line item, there's no specific dollar amount that is deemed from the city that is used for the garden. After 2 meetings on our own and having received conflicting information from Parks and Recreation, it was decided to attend tonight's meeting. Please know, prior to tonight, several people did try to get this issue on tonight's agenda, but due to some negative pushback and more probably the timing, we were unable to do so. Due to the adverse manner of how the permit increase issue was handled, we have come here tonight in hopes you will further research true expenses of running the garden and look into more cost-effective resolutions that would be beneficial for all. If you research, and I Googled, the expense of starting up a new community garden, it states approximately $3,750 to $7,500, with expenses going down, not up, at the gardens as the gardens become more established and gardeners become more knowledgeable about their space and soil. Other Connecticut cities, and I've researched quite a bit, who have city-managed community gardens and charge fees, several do not. Several do not have fees. The average cost is $35. A few cities with higher fees of $75 have structures, electricity, and raised beds. We do not have these in our garden, nor do we want them. As Milford's established garden is 56 years old, why are our so-called expenses so high? In addition to the permit fee, each gardener will minimally spend $285, and that's minimal, out of their own pockets per season to meet the required maintenance and maintain growing of each of their garden plots. And this is done willingly without expecting any payment back for produce donated back to the community. We are not asking for any new projects or additional items, just want to preserve what exists as it has been done for many years. Thank you for your patience with consideration, and now we look forward to a more positive outcome.
Hi, good evening. I'm another gardener. My name is Patricia Marciano. I've been a taxpayer in Milford for 30 years. My address is 96 Maple Street. Gardeners, would you please stand? Thanks. I'd like to thank you for allowing me and my fellow gardeners to come speak to you today. As you have heard, the garden represents many things to us. It represents peace, a place to come and enjoy some work in the beauty of Mother Nature, as well as the bounty of organically grown vegetables, farming from April to November. We are old folks, young folks, families, single people, veterans, differently abled people, a true representation of Milford. We grow for ourselves, our families, our neighbors, and last year 1,500 plus pounds of food donated to pantries in the Milford area, serving those that are food insecure. This increase that we've come here to protest represents a 300% increase in the last 2 years with no warnings and contracts due in March. It gives us little time for consideration. From year to year, we plant over-year crops such as garlic, strawberries, raspberries, and more, as well as capital improvements made in these plots. And while we understand increasing costs and inflation, we feel our program has been unjustly burdened and that poor utilization of already in place allocations have made this increase happen. Families use the beaches, pickleball courts, tennis courts, dog runs, and splash pads with no thought to rising fees. Please do not destroy this 56-year-old program by making it out of reach for the citizens of Milford. We respectfully ask you to rescind this fee increase. Thank you for your time and attention. If you would like more information, there is an article that came out in the Milford Mirror. We also have here Quarterly Benoit, who is past president of the Community Garden Association of Connecticut. Thank you.
John Wazensky, 146 High Street, Unit 302. My name is John Wazensky, and I'm the president of Junior Major League and the director of American Legion Post 196 Baseball. Tonight, I come here as a friend in support of Scott Monfort to be placed on the Committee of Beach, Park, and Recreation. I have known Scott for over 10 years now, and he is one of the main reasons I'm still here in Milford. My experience dealing with Milford residents since I became involved in JML is the reason I am purchasing a home in Milford and want to raise my son here. I am as far from a political person as you will find. I see Yankees versus Red Sox, not Democrats versus Republicans, which is why I felt it necessary to leave my practice this evening to come and speak on behalf of someone who will do his best to help everyone in the city. I had a pretty good relationship with Mayor Blake. I hope to have one with Mayor Giantasio as well. I would say the same thing to both of them in this regard, that a variety of voices from different areas can only be a good thing. As popular as pickleball has become right now, it can't be the only driving force behind recommendations that impact the entire Milford community. I don't see Beach, Park, and Recreation being a political committee. It strikes me as a committee that works together for the best interest of the city, and it needs a variety of people who hear from all the residents in town to bring feedback to their meetings. In that regard, you cannot find a better person to appoint here tonight. a man who gives up countless hours working with the youth in town after his son aged out of youth sports, a man who, along with others in the room tonight, gave Wasson Field a makeover that Milford residents can be proud of at no expense to the city. The man who was the driving force behind rededicating Conklin Field in 2019, and a guy who never turns down a request to help, whether it come from the city, other sports leagues, or any of the many festivals we deal with on a yearly basis. To top it off, not being even on the committee, he has tried to help and made more progress with parking issues down at Brewster Field than people who represent the district. I'll leave you with this note. You're not going to find someone willing to put in more time to help more people than the guy we know and love as Coach Scott. If I were you, I would rather have him on the committee than people who give quotes to the paper saying what is and isn't a good look for Milford. It's for these reasons I encourage you to approve Scott Monfort for Beach Park and Recreation. And finally, I promised our older players I would mention that a full-size diamond with lights in Milford is something that is long overdue. Thank you.
Hello, thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Noelle Smith. I live at 11 Andover Drive in Milford. I would like to echo what Coach John just said about Coach Scott, as we know him. He was one of the first people that I met when I moved to Milford a few years ago, and since then he has been a bright light in my family. His commitment to the community is very clear. He has a wide range of programs, starting from when kids can barely walk. He's the reason why my daughter thought that piñatas were a regular part of baseball practice when she was 3 years old. She continues now to do Coach Pitch. He's also the reason that I was the coach for Coach Pitch, despite having no baseball background, because he inspires others to get involved in their community. He has a regular float at every parade. He's encouraging others to come and support Milford and support the young athletes and the families. He has increased offerings where young kids can start playing baseball very young and be involved in their community. He inspires others, and there's other moms here tonight that are here to support him as well. So I speak on behalf of the Coach Pitch players as well as the Born to Play that Coach Scott is the right choice. Thank you. And also the community gardens. I'm about to get a plot because if the fees are lowered, because they did a great job.
Good evening. My name is Mike Kranak. I'm here to endorse Scott Manafort for a seat on the Parks and Rec. Scott is an outstanding man. He goes above and beyond. He brings honesty and integrity. He's really something else. I don't know what else to tell you. He's unbelievable. My son's been with JML for the last 8 years. Every once in a while, Scott will call me, and he's a hand with this, hand with that. Guy is amazing. And with that being said, I would appreciate if you gave Scott careful consideration and putting him on the board. Thank you kindly.
Good evening. My name is Kathy Kamen. I'm at 76 Whitney Avenue. I am a lifelong Milford resident and have served on the Animal Shelter Commission for the past 4 years. I was recently disheartened to learn that my fellow commissioner, Susan Stanek, would not be reappointed. Also disheartening was that we both learned her fate via the January Board of Aldermen agenda. Despite her years of dedicated service and countless times Susan has gone above and beyond in a thankless volunteer role, she did not warrant even the basic respect of having a chance to submit her resume, or even just briefly share with the mayor the many important contributions she has made over the years. I immediately worried about the open projects that Susan and I are working on together, such as the shelter improvement project to modernize the building, along with bringing its kennel climate control into compliance with the new state law. Ultimately, it should be about what's best for this city and not about, quote, giving people a chance to serve, as there are plenty of other boards and commissions that had and still have vacancies. Susan Stanek is an integral part of the work that we do, and that is why I and the other animal control commissioners, Chairman Colby Collier and Anna Aceta, are here with me to implore you to reinstate Susan Stanek. Also, we take the work that we do at the Animal Shelter Commission very seriously, and we do this with little support from the city. For example, we are one of the only commissions with no alderman liaison and no recurring place on the monthly agenda. On several occasions, I have reached out to a few of you that are sitting up there today and did not even receive a response. As one of you even mentioned our commission on your blog post recently, stating that, quote, even the Animal Shelter Commission was falling victim to democratic politicking. The word even, implying that what happens on the Animal Shelter Commission is inconsequential. I can assure you the work we do does matter, and that no one on the commission cares about politics or the letter after our fellow commissioners' names, nor do the animals in which we advocate. I encourage each one of you, including our mayor, to sit in on at least one of our meetings to get a feel for the work that we do and the challenges that we face. We are fighting to improve the standards of animal welfare in our city, not just petting dogs and playing with kittens. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing one of you or all of you at one of our next meetings. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Charles Montalbano. I live at 30 Revere Place. I'm not a gardener, but I certainly support lowering the fee for the gardeners that are here. I've had the honor of serving on quite a few boards and commissions in our city. They can be time-consuming, but they are rewarding. I know how difficult it can be to fill commissions with qualified people. When we find those people, it's important to retain them. If they are not only qualified, but also respected by their fellow commissioners, those are real keepers. This seems the case for Kevin McGrath, who was just re-elected to his 4th term as chair of the Fire Commission, and Felicia Shashinka, a member of the Recreation Commission who brings a wealth of experience from the New Haven Parks and Rec Department. To have these people succumb to politics is unconscionable. They have served us well, and they should be allowed to continue to serve us. I hope you will reappoint them. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Michael Nevins, 88 Cooper Avenue, Milford. Thank you all for volunteering. Thank you all for doing your part for the city of Milford. We appreciate it. I'm up here shortly. I'm not last, but I'm close. About the community garden. There's costs involved. We have, some of this doesn't need to all be done. Let's work on a plan so that we can keep the costs down and that we can keep all the members happy. It's really easy. 300 yards past our community garden is Eisenhower Park. We need to go to the bathroom, we can go up there. It's 300 yards away. Save $2,000. If something else comes up, we can save another $1,000. Maybe we don't do all the tree work in 1 year. It doesn't have to spend. Let's cut it. Let's get agreement tonight that we'll try and do something and talk to the recreation department. That's all we ask. Talk to them, keep the costs down, keep everybody happy, and let's have a great 2024. Thank you all.
Hi, my name is Kim Both, 91 Hickory Ave, Milford. I'm here to support Scott Montefort for an appointment on the Park and Recs Commissioner. I've known Scott for 18 years, and he is the most involved volunteer you would find ever on a baseball field, at a school, at a community event. He's very special to my family, my son. As a matter of fact, when I saw him today, I walked in and he recalled a specific game from 16 years ago, a specific position my son played. This is the type of gentleman he is, that he remembers and follows children even after they've played with him. He keeps up with their careers. He helps them out wherever he can with his experience. And you'd be lucky to have him on any type of committee. I know that I am lucky to have him as a friend. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Pete Smith, and I actually didn't come to talk about community gardens, but I'm pretty overwhelmed by the folks who have spoken, so I'm just going to add my voice to, I think that they've really made they've made a pretty big impact on me in the context that it is kind of an interesting issue. When you raise a fee, it's sort of like raising a tax, and I think that fees shouldn't be raised unless there's public participation. I think this is an example of public participation, so thank you very much. What I am here to talk about is one of the appointments on the Board of Fire Commissioners. And I know I spoke here last month, and I just wanted to sort of reiterate a couple of things. It's my understanding that there are 73 open positions or vacant positions within our boards and commissions. And of those, they have the commissions that are the mayor's appointments, and you can see that on the agenda where it's the mayor's appointments. He's notifying the board. There's the Board of Aldermen appointments where they're sort of making it public on what their appointments are. And then there's the mayor's appointments with aldermanic approval. And I would suppose, people talk about being political. It seems to me that that's one of the things the mayor does, talks to the Board of Aldermen, they work these things out. And it's unfortunate that wasn't done, because then it creates controversy. And the one thing that I'll note is that there are really qualified people in our town who want to volunteer. And I think that makes our town the town that we all want to live in. I love this community. I think everyone who's elected loves this community, and clearly the people in this room do. But sometimes there are folks who are really qualified in positions that are currently there, and you really want to make sure they stay. And if you think about the 73 positions that we have, there were 14 new appointments that the mayor made. There were Republicans, all of them were Republicans except for one unaffiliated. And I think that we shouldn't get caught in this idea of saying it's political, it's Democrat versus Republican, because the three people that the Democratic aldermen last month were making a case for was one Republican, one unaffiliate, and one Democrat. In my mind, that's not political, that's pretty bipartisan. So I really hope that this board and the mayor can come together and find a solution. And I did, as I said, I serve on the Board of Fire Commissioners, and we did have a meeting subsequent to that. And as Mr. Montalbano mentioned, that Kevin McGrath was reelected unanimously to serve as chairman. And one of our members, his name is Howie Stein. He actually happens to be a state's attorney here in Milford Ansonia District. He gave a very impassioned comment before the meeting, and I just wanted to bring this to your attention, because I know the minutes get posted, but I honestly believe everyone doesn't read our minutes. It's not like the most exciting committee that people want to see. So if you just indulge me, I'd like to, and these are minutes, right? I'm not going to speak as well as Commissioner Stein did. He's an attorney, a practice trial attorney. I'm not. So if you just bear with me, it's pretty short. But the minutes reflect that Commissioner Stein welcomed the two newly elected Board of Aldermen members and newly appointed Fire Department liaisons, Healy and Jenkins. He introduced himself and stated he has been on the board for 17 years. He was appointed by Mayor Riccitelli as a Republican board member. Commissioner Stein says he has never had to voice his political affiliation, as politics never entered into what the board was about. He pointed out that each member's affiliation and time served on the commission is Commissioner Rizzo, a Republican, 25 years on the board, Commissioner Brennan, unaffiliated, 18 years on the board, Commissioner Richard Smith, and I have to say that's not Rich Smith, a Democrat, that's Richard Smith, a Republican. He's been on the board for 20 years, and Chairman McGrath has been on for 12 years. I'm a Democrat, and I've been on for 2 years, and Commissioner Twist is a Democrat who's just been appointed. I think the board just nominated and reappointed unanimously its chairman, Kevin McGrath, based on 3 Republicans, 2 Democrats, and 1 independent. He noted the reappointments were not ratified by the Board of Aldermen. It is important to acknowledge the time each member has served because the amount of dedication, knowledge, and institutional familiarity and players on the issues. Commissioner Stein expressed his respect and understanding for new blood and new ideas, but losing vested people who have familiarity with the important issues of the department would be an incredible loss to the board. He spoke to Chairman McGrath's dedication and time regarding board functions, which is well beyond the normal call of duty. Commissioner Stein speaks to the entire board regarding the nomination of Kevin McGrath and urges liaisons to hear these words of support and recommendation for Kevin McGrath as commissioner. And also Commissioner Rizzo, who's also on the board, spoke up as well. I think the issue isn't that the folks the mayor has put forward are not qualified. I think they are. I think it's great that they want to volunteer. I think there are multiple ways to have that happen. And I think, as a lot of folks have said, I'm not the only one who offered my resignation to put Kevin on the board. There were others who did. So I just want folks to understand what a great job this gentleman does. I was going to say young man, but that really wouldn't be appropriate. But I just wanted to express my feelings. And honestly, I want to thank you for the work that you do, and I want to thank the folks behind me. Thank you.
How you doing? My name is Chris Ramos. I live at 139 Meadowside Road in Milford. I was not born and raised here, but my wife was. We have 5 children, and they've all been growing up around the area. And basically, I'm here to advocate for Scott Monforte to be on that board. Reason being is that our parks and recreational, what's that about really, right? That's our youth. And I bring a ton of them with me. So I've got a lot of friends and family that are looking to move to Milford, and one of the big things that they look for is, well, what do you offer our kids? I don't know anybody better than Scott to offer anything for any of our kids. So I just wanted to come here and say that for you guys tonight. All right, coming from a parent that has many kids, and there's going to be a lot more people that would come in. It's not just us here in Milford, it's what they bring in, right? Baseball alone, how many families, how many towns, states have come here recently because of our baseball programs, right? I mean, it's been incredible, and it takes a lot of work to do that. And I don't know another person that I could say that no matter what, whether you got your eyes on him or not, he'll be there at 5:30 in the morning. Before the sun comes up, he'll be dragging the field. I mean, he just puts the time in, and it's all for our youth. And without them, we got nothing, right? Thank you.
Good evening, Scott Mason, 211 Plains Road. I have a unique perspective that I coached the first Little League game, actually first T-ball, with Scott when our kids were in kindergarten. So I only did it one season with him. But for the last 20 plus years, I've seen his kids selflessly give all of his time to not only the T-ball, the JML, the Babe Ruth, anything that's asked of him. And I'm telling you, when it comes to any position you put him in front of, he'll knock it out of the park. He is definitely the most selfless person I know. And on another note, I have some very good friends here that just a couple years ago took a plot out in the community gardens. And as many of you may know, in the fall, most of these people plant garlic for, evidently it's a spring harvest, I'm not sure, but they were hit with these exorbitant fees after the fact. I think that was completely unfair on their part, or on your part for doing that to them. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lynn McMaster, and I live at 56 Whaley Ave, here on behalf of Scott Monfort. We've known Scott now since my daughter here was about 3 years old when she started Born to Play, and he's been such a positive influence on my daughter as well as so many other kids, and he's volunteered so much of his time. He's at the fields before anybody else, making sure that they're ready to go. He encourages parents to volunteer and, you know, has really created a lot of other volunteers and people that are just looking out for each other. And Piper wants to say.
He's a really good coach, and he taught me how to play baseball.
And we just love him so much, and so we're hoping that with everybody here speaking on his behalf and all of the positive words, that we can make a difference. Thank you.
Steve Hine, 10 Meeting House Lane. I've lived in Milford my whole life. I've owned a couple of baseball facilities in town. I'm here to support Scott Monfort for the Parks and Recs. Of just coming up with different travel teams as I went through. Scott was like one of my right-hand mans, and you know, as much as he likes to talk a lot, you know, he does, which is great, but he's always there. He just hits the ground running. It doesn't matter what it is when it comes to kids. He just loves it. He has a true passion about it, even to the bottom line, like teaching a 2-year-old. He just wants them to play baseball. And also, he really cares about the community because he's sitting there and he's on the tractor at 10 a.m. trying to get, or 6 a.m. trying to get the state tournament ready for the field. So, and he's always a good guy in the community, and everybody loves him. So, I mean, I really hope he gets a job. Appreciate it.
My name is George Holler. I'm General Manager at American Legion Baseball for the last 30 years. I've known Scott for about 5 years now, and I think he's well equipped to do the job. I've been involved with Milford Baseball for 52 years here, Little League and Babe Ruth League. And I've been involved through the rec department, getting fields and stuff like that. And I think Scott can do the job you need him to do. So I hope he does get it. And I know the American Legion Post 196 is for him too. Okay.
Yeah, hello, my name is Tom Jackson. I live at 336 West River Street in the wonderful town of Milford. I also met Scott probably 5 or 6 years ago. I met him at the Richard Conklin Field. The field became in tremendous disrepair. Needed a lot of work, and it's just a shame. We have the dubious distinction of having one of the first Marines killed in Vietnam, Richard Conklin, having a field named after him, and it got turned into shambles. I saw Scott there working with his own tools, refurbishing the flagpole, painting whatever needed to get painted, putting in lights. He's a hardworking guy. He's got great values. I think you do yourself a disservice if you don't put him on that board. Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Paul Richard from 12 Live Oaks Road, Milford. I'd like to tell you about the people of the community gardens. Back when we had a disaster, we ran a fundraiser, and all the money went to wherever that disaster was. Since then, we had fundraisers that we raised money for Make-A-Wish Foundation, for young parents, for the Red Cross. And this is all time donated by all the people in the community garden for the town of Milford. We have great friendships down there. We know who passes away, who has new births in their house. It's a very friendly atmosphere to be at. And an increase this much for young people with today's prices and everything, by the time they get a cherry tomato, they've already put out $300. You know, it's ridiculous. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Jerry Farina, 31 Bonzaline Street, Milford. Before I begin, I think we better put that guy Scott on that commission, man. Otherwise, there's going to be some problems tomorrow. What do you think, everybody? I'm not going to review some of the mistakes that were made on the January 8th meeting, but I'm here to offer some suggestions that what I witnessed. I think, one, you need to communicate any changes on the agenda to all the board members before the meeting. This way, no person or persons might not feel embarrassed or upset. Two, appointments that are going to be approved, any discussions or questions that may be raised should all be ironed out before your meeting if possible. Doing so would show unity in the eyes of the public. Three, if matters arise and it looks like things might not be resolved, table the appointment till the next meeting. Consider the effect your decisions that you made might have a negative impact on citizens ever serving on any board or commission. And now I'll explain to you why I wasn't there. I didn't get the invite to go to the meeting until Tuesday. I don't know what happened to the mail, but. So, I showed up at the Parsons complex on Wednesday. Walked into the city clerk's office, and I asked for Karen. I said, Karen, sorry I couldn't make the meeting, but I'm here to be sworn in. She goes, okay. So she swore me in. But what would have happened if I went to the Parsons complex and I would have been told that I couldn't have been? I don't think that's what you want. Thank you very much.
Chris Maluski, 32 Baker Street. I've known Scott Monforti for 15 plus years. We've coached our kids together ever since, from championships to lost championships. I can honestly tell you that being his neighbor across the street, he does like to talk. And if there's a garden plot available, I'm in. I'd like to have you guys consider Coach Scott, as he's well known for Park and Rec. He's such a giver. In 21 and 22, I had my home remodeled inside. Next year, 23, Scott did his. Yeah, yours is better than mine, Scott. But I can tell you he's a giver. When I look out my window Saturdays and Sundays, if I don't see Scott's van there, he's downtown. He's doing something for the community, and I wish my old coaches were just like him, giving. He's got no vested interest. His family, his sons are out of baseball for years, just like my son, but he still gives. So please consider Scott for Park and Rec. Thank you.
I'm Ron Montfort, and I've known Scott quite a few years. And all the nice things said about Scott, I don't even know why I'm up here. But I can tell you one thing, Scott is a doer. Every time I try to get Scott, he said, Dad, I'm down the baseball field. I'm painting, I'm raking, meet me down the baseball field. He even got me to help coach the first few years. And really, he helped me. And then all of a sudden, the father started helping him. He says, Dad, I don't need you. And I was a little hurt then. But all his life, he's a doer, and he's a giver. And he's the greatest.
Hi, I'm Carol Thomas, 84 Thompson Street. I despise politics. My theory is you vote for the best person for the job. If you want the best person for Beach Park and Rec, it's Scott Monfort. And everybody, it's Monfort. Vote, put Scott on it. You won't be disappointed.
Would anybody else like to address the board at this time? Seeing none, Alderman Pacelli, agenda item number 3. Consideration of minutes.
Consideration of minutes of the regular meeting of the Board of Aldermen held on January 8th, 2024.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Agenda item number 4.
Excuse me, point of information, Chair, may I say something, please?
Alderman Mulrennan.
I'd like to point out, in reference to the minutes of last month, that this Board of Aldermen did reappoint Susan Stanek to the Animal Shelter Commission, as well as the new appointment to Kimberly Jenkins to the Animal Shelter Commission. And so want to point out those individuals who came forward, that they were appointed and reappointed.
Thank you, Alderman Mulrennan. Agenda item number 4, there was no special meeting. Agenda number 5, Chairman's report. First of all, I just wanted to say, after hearing the members of the audience concerning the community gardens, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to make sure that that's going to appear on the agenda next month's agenda. The other thing I'd like to talk about as we start a new year on our Board of Aldermen, I need to remind all members that as chairman, I need to preserve order in this meeting and hold a proper decorum at all times during the meeting. I ask that we focus on the question or motion being discussed and not straying on unrelated topics or personal matters. I'd ask you please to refrain from personal attacks or negative remarks on other members. Always use appropriate language, and remember the board will not tolerate inappropriate language towards other members of the board, and I will call out this behavior if it occurs again. Thank you for caring about the matters of the city. Agenda item number 6. Agenda item number 6 is the mayor's report and recommendations. Is there a report from the mayor?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Through you to the members of the board, good evening. And to the public, thank you for coming out and expressing all of your concerns and support for our duly appointed nominees here tonight. It's good to see everyone here in City Hall, and we hope that you continue to come back and share with us what matters to you most. That's what makes government alive and well. So I just wanted to congratulate you all for being here. It does, open our eyes and our ears to see the concerns of the city. With that being said, through you, Mr. Chairman, to Leader Pacelli and Minority Leader Marlowe and the members of the board, last November, the residents of Milford voted to entrust us with the tasks of leading our great city. In doing so, they sent us a clear message: work in a productive and bipartisan manner. This was made evident by the voters choosing to elect a Republican mayor, a Democratic city clerk, and a Democratic Board of Aldermen, which we have in the majority. There were several appointments, as you may know, that were rejected by this board last month. And in the interest of working in a productive and bipartisan manner, I'm proud to present the agenda before you. This was a compromise. These boards and commissions, these members or these terms, they expire. They don't run in perpetuity. So that's what brings elections, and that's what brings people forward that have fresh ideas, people that want to serve, that want an opportunity to serve. And that's what government does. It grants opportunity to all of us. Any one of you here tonight that has never served on a board or commission always has that opportunity. I just want to make that clear. So, you know, I don't want to believe that it's politics. These appointments that I'm requesting are mayor's appointments. And when I was on the board of aldermen, I started with Mayor Riccitelli. All of his appointments were endorsed by the board, the Democratic board at that time. It was the same dynamic. It was a Republican mayor with a majority of a Democratic board. Mayor Blake was the chairman. When Mayor Blake became mayor, the Republicans ended up in the minority. I was the minority leader. And I always endorsed Mayor Blake's appointments, just out of the respect of the office, just out of consideration, you know, just it's something, it's a blessing. It's something that comes from the mayor's office. You know, it's only a handful of commissions. It's not the entirety. Most of the people that requested to be reappointed were reappointed. And, you know, I'm thankful for that. And I'm thankful for their service, and I'm thankful for their continued service. We just wanted to make some, you know, minor changes and in a positive way. And it was rejected. So since the last meeting, I worked with the Board of Aldermen, the leadership, with Chairman Vitro, with Majority Leader Pacelli, and I put these names forward for reconsideration tonight. And I'm hoping that, you know, that we can reach an agreement through the votes. I just want to be fair. I want to be fair to everyone. And I think that these people that I've put forward, as you can see, they have a lot of support. And there's a lot of people that support them, and they've done great things in the community, and they want to continue to do great things in the community, you know, serving in these positions. And I do appreciate any former person that has not been reappointed. I send them letters. I thank them for their service. That means the world to me. I started in politics. I was appointed by Mayor Riccitelli on a board. Fast forward 20 years, I stand before you as an elected mayor. If I didn't have that opportunity, I wouldn't be here. There's so much meaning. So sometimes you have to give new people a chance to grow. And who knows, maybe someday they'll end up running for this board or any other elected office. But right now, they just want to volunteer their time on a board and a commission and do what's right for all the people, for all of us. We have to show unity. We have to represent bipartisanship. That's what I ran on, and that's what I'm doing here tonight. I'm asking for the board's consideration. Once again, I hope that I have your consideration for the best interests of Milford. I look forward to the continued collaboration and swift approval that's before you tonight. And with that, I respectfully request consideration on items 8A through 8J and would like to announce the reappointment of Mary Beth Stickley to the Council of Aging. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moving on to agenda number 8, moving on to new business. Unfinished business. There is no unfinished business.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes?
Yes, through you. I actually would like to call a 5-minute recess, if that's all right.
Sure.
Thank you.
5-minute recess. Will the aldermen please take their seats?
I think it's fine, yeah.
We're back out of recess. Moving on to new business, agenda item number 8, Alderman Pacelli.
Agenda item 8A, Board of Aldermen approval is hereby requested for the appointment of Vincent J. Averamo, 306 Housatonic Drive, as a member of the Fire Commission, term to expire 12/31/26.
Motion is made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed?
Opposed, no.
Roll call vote, please, Madam Secretary.
Alderman Archiola. Alderman Beatty. Alderman Bevan.
Yes.
Alderman Casey.
Yes.
Alderman Federico.
No.
Alderman Fowler.
Yes.
Alderman Healy.
No.
Alderman Jenkins.
Yes.
Alderman Marlowe.
Yes.
Alderman Mulrennan.
No.
Alderman Pacelli.
No.
Alderman Smith.
Yes.
Alderman Vitro.
No.
Alderman Vitale. Alderman Willis.
No.
8 noes, 7 yeses.
8 no, 7 yes, the motion fails. Agenda item number 8B, Alderman Pacelli.
Agenda item 8B, Board of Aldermen approval is hereby requested for the reappointment of Scott Moulton, 15 Myrtlewood Drive, as a member of the Board of Finance, term to expire 12/31/26.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Agenda item 8C, Alderman Pacelli.
Agenda item 8C, Board of Aldermen approval is hereby requested for the appointment of Scott Monfort Sr., 39 Baker Street, as a member of the Park Beach and Recreation Commission, term to expire 12/31/26.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Alderman Bevan.
I would like to point out that this seat is an open seat. This person will be taking my spot on the Park Beach and Rec Commission, and I hope that you do vote him through, because if that doesn't happen, I believe I will go back onto the Park Beach and Rec Commission also. Thank you so much.
You want to repeat that, Mr. Alderman Belvin?
I'll repeat it, that this position is an open seat. This person will be taking my seat as I had on the commission for Park Beach and Rec. It's not a reappointment, it's an open seat. And if this person isn't put on, I will resume my spot as a commissioner on the Park Beach and Rec Commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion on the motion?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Alderman.
Full disclosure, Scott Monfort coached my son in basketball as well. I just want to ask a clarification to the mayor, just so that we're all clear here. So this position would replace Alderman Bevan, and there's still an expired term that's currently sitting Felicia Shashenka. What's your intention for that filling that entire expired term?
Mr. Chairman, through you to Alderman Federico. So yes, that is correct. Alderman Bevan has been elected to the Board of Aldermen, so Scott Monfort would be filling the vacancy, and that's what's before you this evening. But moving forward, I don't know. I'm waiting for the outcome of, other appointments as well. So, it remains to be seen. But Felicia is there in place, and she is there, going to the meetings, and she is technically still on the board.
Alderman Morenin.
Thank you, Chairman Vitro. So just to clarify your answer, Mayor Ginatasio, you have no plans to bring forth Felicia Shashinka's name for reappointment?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, at this time, what's before you is the vacancy of Alderman Bevan, and I haven't, decided one way or the other on the standing of the other member of the Parks and Rec Department that you're referring to. So that's my answer.
Alderman Scott Marlowe.
Yes, I'd like to, through you, Chairman, just to address the rest of the board. We're looking at a specific item on the agenda here. We shouldn't be tying this appointment to another, what might or might not happen. We need to deal with the appointment in front of us.
Alderman Marlowe, we just looking for clarification because we really didn't have a clarification as to, there's 2 vacancies on that Parks and Recreation. That's why we brought it up. Thank you.
Chairman Vitro, may I? I understand what's in front of us, and I understand one is a reappointment, and I understand one's a vacancy. I do not have any issue with needing clarification on that, but I was interested in your plans for the future in terms of looking at compromising as well, because you said that you were willing to work with us, so I was curious, but I understand your plan is no plan, and I just wanted to be clarified on that. But I understand that we're talking about filling the vacancy for Alderman Bevins.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Alderman Morenin. The plan is, this is the compromise that's before you. You just voted no against Attorney Averamo to be on the Fire Commission. This compromise was brought forward at the leadership meeting, so you just voted no on the compromise. You're asking about something that's not even before you tonight, which is a fair question, but my answer is I haven't considered it either way. But if you'd like to re-vote and put Attorney Averamo on the Fire Commission, then maybe at the next leadership meeting, we could put Felicia up forward if that's what you'd like to do. So I'm open. I'm ready to work with you. Thank you.
Alderman Beatty.
Was Alderman Pacelli in front of me? So there is a quid pro quo, then, that,
Objection, Mr. Chairman, we are so far
No,
off our
excuse me,
agenda now. This
I
is not, these comments are not even germane to the
Alderman
issue before
Smith,
us.
Alderman Smith, you
I
are
was
out of order.
No, I'm not. I was recognized. I'm asking. Alderman Smith is out of order. Yes, thank you.
This whole
we
line of
were
questioning
really-
is out of order. It is not germane.
Raise your hand if you want to be recognized. Alderman
We
Beatty
will-
has the floor.
We were wondering, you might be very surprised at how much we listen to public testimony and to you. We were wondering why, when there was a vacancy and an expiration, why you weren't filling both. It was an innocent question, wanting to know. We didn't talk about deals. We understood. We know what a vacancy is. We know what a reappointment is. We were wondering what your plans were, and were we missing something? We all decided, focus on this, not anything else. We're focusing on C. You were the one who brought up a previous vote about somebody else and made them look as if they're connected. So at some point, you'll decide who you'll reappoint, and then we'll vote on it. And there's no deal with what we're doing now. And it doesn't mean we make a deal with the next vote we're going to do. It's done in good faith that maybe we listen to the public testimony. So thanks.
Mr. Chairman, through you to Alderman Beatty. So this is a cleaner approach. Last time we had things put together and you made the motion to divide the question and you started separating things. So like I said, this is a compromise. It's much cleaner this way. So this is the approach. Thank you.
Is there any more discussion on the motion? Alderman Pacelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I feel as though there's a little bit of a miscommunication here. You have an agenda item, and for a person either on this board or in the public reading that item, it's just not clear whether or not this was intended on filling the vacant position or if it was going to fill a position that is currently filled by another person that may or may not be reappointed. So in order for everyone on this board to do their job, I think it is important to ask the question, which of those two spots will be filled if Scott is appointed. And that's all this was. So again, I think we should also recognize that by doing these one at a time, it does make it a bit easier procedurally. So I think that was wise in this instance. And I also would point out that, it should not be considered that one of these is dependent on another. Each of these will be viewed, I'd like to think, by each of the people on this board as an individual decision made upon the individual person based upon what's best for the board and for the city. Thank you.
Just for clarification, Mr. Chairman, I did indicate on the record that this Scott Montefiore is going to fill the vacancy for Alderman Bevan, and Alderman Bevan concurred that. So I could assure you that that's what's happening, and Alderman Morenin brought up the other individual, which is not before us tonight. So I'm in agreement with it. I have no problem with it. I mean, this is the way it was proposed at the leadership meeting. We're doing it, in this format. So,
With no other discussion, we'll take this for a vote. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations, Scott. Agenda item number D, 8D, Mr. Alderman Pacelli.
8D, Board of Aldermen approval is hereby requested for the appointment of John Ranges, 144 East Street, to fill a present vacancy on the Housing Court Board of Appeals, term to expire 12/31/27.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Agenda item 8E, Alderman Pacelli.
Agenda item 8E, Board of Aldermen approval is hereby requested for the appointment of Ariane Orozco, 354 Wheelers Farms Road, Unit 107, to fill a vacancy on the Fair Rent Commission as a tenant, term to expire 12/31/24.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Alderman Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. A vacancy on the Rent Commission, isn't this a new commission? We have never filled those positions before. This is the first time around, isn't it? As I understand it. I may be wrong.
Well, the Rent Commission consists of so many members. This is still a vacant position. That's why we're putting her in.
It's confusing that we're creating the commission. We're not reappointing anybody.
Mr. Chairman, through you.
The Rent Commission has already been created. Now we're filling in the spots. Gotcha.
It's requested for the appointment of, to fill a vacancy.
Because
Is that proper?
because it is vacant at the time, because we're trying to fill the complete Rent Commission. The Rent Commission consists of 5 members. There isn't 5 members yet, so we're filling in another position. You got it?
Semantics, the point is that
Any more discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Alderman Pacelli, agenda item 8F.
Agenda item 8F, Board of Aldermen approval is hereby requested for the appointment of Jorge Santiago, 76 Noble Avenue, to fill a vacancy on the Fair Rent Commission as a citizen, term to expire 12/31/25.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Pacelli, agenda item 8G.
Agenda item 8G, Board of Aldermen approval is hereby requested for the appointment of Buddy Preet, 293 Woodruff Road, to fill a vacancy on the Fair Rent Commission as a landlord, term to expire 12/31/24.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Alderman Pacelli, agenda item number 8H.
Agenda item 8H, Board of Aldermen approval is hereby requested for the appointment of Jamil Azari, 178B Seaside Avenue, to fill a vacancy on the Board of Health, term to expire 12/31/24.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Alderman Arcaiolo.
It's a mouthful. Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, through you. It's not really a point of discussion, but I just wanted to point out that Jimmy is a wonderful friend, excellent neighbor, and a fantastic business owner, and our downtown community is very lucky to have him. I think he's going to do an exceptional job at this position. Thank you.
Is there any more discussion on the motion? Or any more compliments on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Pacelli, agenda item 8I.
Agenda item 8I, Board of Aldermen approval is hereby requested for the appointment of John Mortimer, 41 James Street, as a member of the Planning and Zoning Board to fill the present vacancy, term to expire 12/31/25.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Pacelli, agenda item number 8J.
Agenda item 8J, Board of Aldermen approval is hereby requested for the appointment of Reverend M. Ashley Grant, 31 Winthrop Court, as a representative for the Milford Clergy Association for the Milford Department of Human Services, term to expire 12/31/26.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. At this time, will our newly confirmed board and commission members come to the front of the auditorium to be sworn in by our city clerk?
Hi, can you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear that you will faithfully execute and discharge your duties and responsibilities according to law as a member of your respective board or commission of the city of Milford to the best of your ability, so help you God? Okay, congratulations.
Agenda number 9, there is no new business. Agenda item number 10, there are no budget memo transfers. Agenda number 11, moving on to refunds. Alderman Pacelli, agenda item number 11A.
Agenda item 11A, consideration of refunds in the amount of $17,719.55.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Agenda item number 12, are there any reports from any of our standing committees? Alderman Pacelli.
Yes, I'd like to offer a report on the Ordinance Committee. Earlier this evening, the Ordinance Committee unanimously determined to bring before the Board of Aldermen for consideration 2 ordinances. First, 12A, Roman numeral 1, an ordinance adopting Chapter 7, Article 6, prohibition of electric vehicle charging stations and underground parking garages, as well as item A2, an ordinance adopting Chapter 7, Article 1 in general, Section 7-6, fire apparatus access and water supply.
Can I have a second on that?
If I may, I think we should take them one at a time.
Absolutely.
Motion is being made to consider the ordinance adopting Chapter 7, Article 6, prohibition of electric vehicle charging stations and underground parking garages.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Alderman Marlowe.
I wonder if we could have someone from the fire department address what, just explain a little bit about what this ordinance is about.
Sure.
Evening, everyone. My name is Tim Sutton. I'm the Deputy Fire Marshal. I'm the one that wrote this ordinance and proposal for you guys to take a look. First and foremost, the Milford Fire Department nor the Fire Marshal's Office are against the installation of any electric vehicle charging station in any type of occupancy within the city of Milford. This world needs to advance the green technology to better the future of this planet. With the evolution of new technology, new risks inevitably evolve as well. And electric vehicles will be no different than any other industrial disruptors. The threat from internal combustion engines vehicle fires and filling stations are well known and documented, but what we do not know yet is the level of hazards that accompany with the EV charging stations all over the world. The purpose of this ordinance is to prohibit the installation of the operation of EV charging stations within underground parking structures. That does not say that we don't allow for above ground or a grade level parking structures themselves. It's just to eliminate the potential safety and infrastructure concerns associated with the installation of such charging stations in underground facilities. First responders across the nation and throughout the world are acknowledging that EV fires are a cause for concerns, and steps to alleviate dangerous situations shall be put in place. Concerns in the fire service about EVs in open and enclosed parking garages are increasing as a result of what has occurred in the United States and elsewhere in the world. These incidents involve hundreds of automobiles, injuries, severe structural damages, and structural collapses. One video of an EV fire in a parking garage revealed that a significant fire that involved 3 vehicles developed in no more than 3 minutes. The fire was too large to extinguish with any portable fire extinguishers as soon as it self-vented from the vehicle of origin. And as it states, studies show that the risk of fires are the same between EVs and internal combustion engine vehicles. But there's research comparing total EV and internal combustion engine fires in various locations on the road, parked, charging, or in an accident. Another study reports that over a third of all EV fires happen while connected to energized alternating current or direct current charging stations, or within 1 hour of being disconnected, indicating that there may be a greater risk of a fire during an EV charging. In parking garages, vehicles are parked right next to one another to save space. This becomes a combustible nightmare. We must get a handle on the fire within the first few minutes on arrival, or we will lose the battle. Early detection and quick pre-planned attacks are critical to the outcome of these incidents, particularly when residents are attached to the parking structures. Something else we must consider, parking garages could be at risk of collapse as a result of the heavier weight of EV vehicles compared with conventional automobiles. As a reminder, fires that involve internal combustion engines, whether gasoline or diesel, are easier to battle than fires that involve electric vehicles. The temperatures of fires that involve internal combustion engines can reach 1,500 degrees. Temperatures of fires that involve electric vehicles can reach 4,500 degrees and hotter. The temperature of an EV fire is a major concern for parking garages. When concrete is exposed to temperatures that are hotter than 212 degrees Fahrenheit, the moisture in concrete turns to steam. If the temperature rises more rapidly than the steam can escape through the concrete matrix, the rising pressures exceeding the strength of the concrete, and it begins to spall. The spalling can be an explosive in extreme cases and can cause major damage, including collapse. There are different levels, as you stated earlier to the committee, that there is a general statute that requires a minimum of a level 2 charging that transfers from AC to DC power. There are the fast charger ones, and as of right now, those are mainly out in open parking areas. But remember that EV chargers have 3 distinct properties: chemical, electrical, and thermal. Since lithium-ion fires are a chemical reaction, they only can be cooled, not extinguished. This ends up burning for several days in some cases. In that case, damage to the parking structure could be extensive. Even though sprinkler systems are required within underground parking garages, the amount of heat, fire, and time it takes to extinguish the EV sprinkler system would not be able to extinguish these types of fires. They're becoming more commonplace in society. Charging EVs will become routine and available everywhere in the not too distant futures. Fires and charging stations in EVs themselves are going to be an issue that will eventually receive guidance from organizations such as the National Fire Protection Association, or NFPA, and the federal government. In the meantime, it is best to get in front of this issue and proactively provide fire protection. Again, we just want to state that we are not limiting the fact of EV charging stations anywhere within the city of Milford itself. It's just within the underground parking structures. The way that city of Milford is being developed and will develop, it's moving at an exponential rate, and we're going to lose open space to where we're actually only going to be able to go 2 ways, up or down. And as of right now, we have a total of 4 underground parking garages in different completion to the beginning stages that we're just trying to get ahead of this as some bigger developments come out into development over the years. Take in point that a standard car fire would take anywhere between 500 to 1,000 gallons of water to extinguish, and would be done in a couple minutes. Versus an EV car can take anywhere up to 20,000 gallons and can actually last for numerous hours. And the only defense that we have against it is copious amounts of water. That's all we get from the guidance. If you guys have any questions, we have more information that we could give you, but I think I kind of give you a mouthful.
Is there any other cities or municipalities that have already made this happen?
They have, sorry, Chair, they have guidance, but nothing that would ban underground parking garages. I am on a number of committees throughout the state through the Fire Marshal's office, and when I approached this to bring it to their attention, all the fire marshals agreed, and all their aldermen or city governments were looking into the same as well. So this would be a first in the state of Connecticut, if not across the United States. So we're kind of leading the charge on this.
So this ordinance that you're proposing is going to ban all EV charging stations in Milford?
In Milford, in underground parking garages, not anywhere else above ground or level grade.
What about, is there, I don't know, but is there any other charging stations right now in any of our underground parking garages?
There will be some placed over at 44 River Street. Again, that was already pre-approved plans by the city of Milford, and there's already a lease agreement with the city of Milford for a 99-year lease for parking, public parking. So again, that's considered, if you want to use that term, grandfathered, which in the code world I don't like. But for that, you can't retroactively go after them to say you can't have them, because they are meeting the state statute and the city regulations for meeting that 10% of parking once you reach over 30 that's required.
Thank you, Chief. Any other questions? Alderman Marlowe.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, I did have a couple questions with this. I guess normally you said you fight this just with water, electric vehicle. That's the only way to fight it.
There are other testing methods out there of using dry chem extinguishers, but then again, you're looking at large quantities of dry chemical extinguishers to be able to do it. Recently, there was a fire in an above-ground parking garage in Norwalk, just the charging station itself. It was not plugged into anything. It took 33 firefighters, so the whole fire department of Norwalk, to extinguish it, and it took about 20 to 30 minutes to extinguish. It wasn't even plugged into anything, and it caught fire.
So, if I could, Mr. Chair, with this, I see the definition of underground structure. Do you see this applying as well to a semi-enclosed parking structure that may be partially above grade?
If it's above grade, usually the height requirements for above ground parking structures is a little bit higher, so it makes it easier for us to do firefighter tactics. Because obviously with the heat and the smoke banks down and your visibility will be, and the heat would just be too intense to do interior firefighting. With underground parking garages, they do get some leniencies for height requirements because you're not driving semis or large pickup trucks within those underground parkings.
Do you see that this at some point could be that you won't be able to park an electric vehicle? Forget about charging it underground.
That's totally up to the landlord themselves. We're just trying to alleviate at least half of the equation of when fires actually can occur with EV chargings, with EV cars itself. Because again, an electric vehicle could just be parked randomly anywhere, and the way that the batteries are built within the cars, it's called thermal runaway, to where once it gets going, within 3 minutes, you can have multiple vehicles started. And they even timed it within 20 seconds once it actually starts going.
Sure. I know at the Ordinance Committee meeting, it was brought up about, I do a lot of building, but more in Stamford, in that area. And a lot of those lots, you have zero outside parking. So I guess how does a community or a builder meet the requirements that the state statute has for the amount of charging stations that's needed?
It can be difficult, but then you're looking at more of doing more above ground than anything else. So if, say, the city of Stamford, because it's so densely packed and everything too, they may try to go down to say, okay, you can park down here, but you just can't charge your cars to go along with the same definition of what we're trying to push. But then again, you look at, you could build at least 4 stories up of a parking garage and then the rest of the occupancy itself. So there are ways to get around it, or you do apply to the state to try and get either a modification to either the code that would be required. First you start at local, and then you can start at the state to where there could be a variance to it.
Sure, just with so many more electric vehicles around, it seems like charging stations are at a premium.
Oh yeah, they're everywhere, yeah.
Thank you.
Alderman Fowler.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. Just 2 questions. You mentioned that 1/3 of EV fires or the stat was caused by charging stations. I'm just curious, what about the other 2/3? How does, I just think of like, how does spontaneous combustion, I don't know, factor into that?
Well, not really spontaneous combustion. So usually it can be damage to the battery itself through either an accident or loose wiring over time, wear and tear. That's part of the other 2/3 factors that can happen with EV chargings, or with EV cars themselves. We're just talking about 1/3 of the EV fires that happen while they're charging.
Yeah.
So that if we could alleviate that in itself, just an underground parking garage, we've then saved a lot more dollars and lives with it.
Yeah, and just the second point, because I know this past fall, the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection, they were trying to pass a mandate to ban the sale of new gas cars by 2035, and I'm just wondering, was this ordinance written with that in mind?
It has been, again. These ordinances, obviously, they can't supersede state statutes, and if you get to a state statute that says, all right, that's it, no more internal combustion engines, then this ordinance then will have to be rescinded and follow the state law. Because you can never go above and beyond.
Thank you.
I was looking at the other side to see if anybody else wants to speak. Yes, Alderman Casey.
So this is only below ground, but do you have recommendations like It's not a lot of parking garages in Milford, but do you have recommendations that should happen? Like, say if 3 floors of parking garage, you recommend that they have it on the 3rd floor, or doesn't really matter?
It doesn't matter. Again, usually I can only enforce what the code states of where you can place them itself or how they should be installed, but there is no for exactly what level you're required to have it. That's more of a conversation you have with the site developer to say, hey, I think it's more advantageous for you to have these over in this area, like how it was over here on 44 River Street. Their first plan showed it in the way back corner of the underground parking garage. When I asked, I said, one, can you not? Like, can you put it all above ground? But for them to meet the state statute and city regulation, they were able to put it towards the railroad side ave, where it's actually not underneath any building itself, but it's still underneath the parking floor above. So again, it just tells you how to install. It just doesn't tell you where you have to.
But if you're the fire department, you want to prefer it to be in the highest level, or?
No, I say ground level, because again,
Okay.
if you have a car, electric vehicle charging or on fire, you have easier access to be able to either pull that car out away from the parking structure itself, or be able to devote more manpower with the trucks getting a lot closer instead of having to do aerials or standpipe systems to get the water supply on those cars. Because then again, if you have it at the top and it says copious amounts of water, you're then flooding whatever's underneath that for costing more dollars than what you could have saved.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any more discussion on the motion? Alderman Smith.
Yes, I'd heard some discussion earlier that when a fire starts in an EV car, that you don't even try to put it out. But I'm hearing there you can put them out?
Well, it takes time. Obviously, when we use, it says, like, it literally says all the time, copious amounts of water. To where if you look at articles throughout the nation, they try to do this tactic. They try to have a different way of getting to the car batteries, because where the car batteries are located on the underside of the car itself, but it's within a steel encasement. So they either try to ricochet water off the ground to get up to it, have different type of nozzles that get there. And after they had one fire in Tennessee, it took 45,000 gallons to actually put out the fire. And the fire marshal, after that concluded, the next fire we have, we're just going to let it burn.
So that was down there, but that's not what your protocol is, not to just let it burn, or is your?
No, we're going to try to extinguish a fire no matter what. We're trying to protect life and property.
And the fires that I've read about, I went online and looked at some of these things. How did they spread from car to car to car? There were a couple of them. There was one in Liverpool and one in Oslo that consumed like 1,400 cars in the entire.
Because of the amount of heat release that's produced through the thermal runaway, it's then called radiation heat. So you either have conduction by the way it touches, or you have radiation heat is another aspect, and that's what's happened. If you ever see the videos of the thermal runaway of the EV batteries, they're actually coming out at jet engines that actually can ignite the nearest combustible, which would be the next vehicle over, which then can start a chain reaction of the next vehicle thermal runaway, the next runaway, the next runaway. And again, we've had videos that showed within 3 minutes, within actually a minute and a half, you had 3 vehicles fully engulfed. And it took the fire department no less than 3 minutes to get there, where in the gold standard states for 4 minutes to get there to put out a fire.
So then, if 2/3 of the fires are from EVs themselves, not plugged into charging stations, I mean, why shouldn't it be the other way around? Right? Why shouldn't we say that there can be no EVs parked in parking garages underground at all? If the charging stations are only 1/3, you'd almost say, well, let the charging stations be down there and get the EVs out of there.
Oh, I'm 100% with you. If I could get EVs out of undergrounds altogether itself, I can. But at least I'm trying to alleviate that one potential ignition source for actually starting the fire. With this, I think it's an easier push and easier pass to get it done. And then it actually falls on the landlord or the owner itself, because when you start to show them the information about how these fires can erupt and the amount of heat that can happen, they either are going to lose a portion of the building or an entire building itself. Again, and sorry to cut you off, but it goes with the whole fact for, say, 44 River Street with the 99-year lease that the city of Milford has for public parking. Yes, they did install the 10 EV charging stations underground and another 10 above ground. It doesn't mean you have to allow EV cars into the charge itself. That can fall under the city of Milford to say, no, you cannot have it. They met that state statute of doing the installation for them. They provided it. Doesn't mean you have to allow them to do it.
How many parking spaces do they have over there?
Total, it's about 200, but they actually had to install, per that 10%, it's around 20 EV charging stations.
So they've got 20 charging stations
10
over
above
there?
ground and 10 below ground in the underground,
And they
all on the same side wall.
So they've got 10 below ground over there?
Yep.
All right. So what would happen in an underground parking facility when the entire parking facility was underground?
What would happen to it?
Well,
when a fire would take place?
No, the state mandate requires 10% of the parking spaces to have EV
charging station.
Yeah, EV charging stations.
Yeah, so as of right now, with the state, then your municipality would have to allow it to happen. That's why if they're trying to do that design for that building, you can reject the site plan stating you can't do it per local ordinance that states you cannot have EV charging stations underground. So when the state is null and void on that, you pick it up in local ordinance like we're trying to do.
So this would then effectively ban from Milford all underground?
Moving forward, if any new structure is to be built that has any underground parking structure, again, we're looking at the mall as a future project where they're going to be doing up to 750 units in multiple buildings to get their parking. They may be looking to do underground parking. But then we could say, well, you can have underground parking. You just can't have EV charging stations underneath per local ordinance.
Right. But I do want to talk some about the mall, but so you're saying that if this ordinance is passed, then wholly underground garages would be banned in Milford?
Nope, not parking garages, just EV charging stations and underground parking structures.
But if you have a solely underground parking garage, no other parking.
I know, Jay, where they have to meet that state statute for whatever it is.
Yes, you'd have to have the 10%.
There have to be something that would have to be submitted to the state to be able to get a variance for that.
To get a what for that?
To get a variance for it, to be able to get around that state statute. Again, with the local ordinance, we'd say, no, you can't have it. They'd have to redesign if they, like a letter of hardship, whatever it is that they'd have. They'd come to the city of Milford. We'd either approve it, deny it, move it up to the state fire marshal's office will weigh in on it, and then if it gets overruled by state committees, then it gets overruled. But at least we're trying to alleviate that as of right now. And again, the way the city of Milford is going with building, there is ample parking that they would be able to accommodate at grade level or above.
So what I think I just heard you said was that the state statute would override the local ordinance.
Yes. Again, if the state statute said you are allowed to do it in underground parking structures, then it overrules us. We can never supersede what the state says.
And then on this, in the first section of this new ordinance, 7-84, it talks about any new residential buildings or projects. Would that include a new project? Would that include a renovation?
If it's a complete demolition and they're redoing it, but if they're trying to dig down to add an underground parking structure to it, that would fall under something new, so it's a new code, yes.
So would the new section here then apply to existing facilities that are being renovated?
So the way codes work for the state of Connecticut, prior to January 1st, 2006, if you were a permitted building, you are considered existing, so you follow a certain type of code. But should you change any alteration or modifications to your structure itself, then you have to follow the new code requirements. So then whatever it is, that specific portion of what you updated has to be up to the new code standard. Do you understand?
Well, I do, but I'm not sure that you're answering my question. My question is, if there's a renovated project in Milford, would this ordinance apply to it?
Yes, it would, because again, it's new. So again, you say renovation, but it's a new work. It's new work being done to your house or a structure or a commercial property.
So they would have to insert the additional charging stations, even if the Milford ordinance didn't allow for them to do it.
But it all depends. Are they required to have 30 or more parkings per the state statute and city regulations? So you have to take it on a case-by-case basis and be able to talk to the
Right.
developer on it.
Well, we're assuming that they're subject to it.
Yeah.
So if they're subject to it,
Then they'd have to follow local ordinance.
even
Right.
though, well, I think we talked about the state statute would override the local ordinance.
If it writes that they're allowed to have it in underground, state statute does not deny you of installing EV charging stations underground. State statute is just null and void on EV charging stations of where they can be installed. We're trying to just deny underground parking.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's clear. It's not clear to me. Let me ask you, how much does it cost, each charging station cost?
That's above my head for what it is. I know that from developers, when I ask them what the actual cost for EV chargers, and they just say it's quite expensive for it.
Quite expensive?
But again, off the top of my head, I don't know the charge for it.
So we don't know the cost. So we're being asked to vote for an ordinance that's going to impose a mandated cost on these structures and on people trying to build them, and we don't know what the cost is?
A mandated cost for them to install it? We don't
Yeah.
know the cost for it. We're not telling them the type of cost. We're just telling them, just don't locate them when you have to do it per se statute, just relocate them somewhere else.
Well,
By
actually,
the city of Milford regulations.
we're being asked to vote on this ordinance that says that the 10% of the parking spaces are going to have the EV charging.
That's per
Mr.
state
Chair?
statute and the city regulations.
I get that all
If I could
day.
just interrupt and I can help out
I
clear
get
some
that all day
confusion.
long, but we're being asked to cast our vote. Some people may disagree with state mandates, and that's a state law, it's in place now, nothing we can do about it. It applies to the city of Milford, Milford's got to live with it. But you're asking us to cast our vote this language would require us to cast our vote in favor of that mandate, and we don't know what that cost is. And I'm just suggesting that before someone can vote for a mandate that imposes a cost like this, you said they're very expensive. Well, over here, they've got a place with 200 parking spaces. 10% of that is 20 parking spaces. And you're asking us to vote for something, and you're telling us that we don't know what the cost of a charging station is.
Mr. Chairman?
I'm just suggesting before we cast our vote in favor of it, even if it's already a state law that already applies to us, we ought to know what those costs are. And not knowing that, I'm not sure that that's something we should be voting for at this point in time.
If I may. The charging stations are already mandated by the state.
Correct.
They're already being put in by the contractor. We're not denying that, we're not changing that. We're just asking them to move them to an outside wall or not in an underground parking structure. The cost is irrelevant because the contractor is already mandated by the state statute that they have to install these. We are just asking, please don't install them underground, because we don't know if we can safely get the cars out or the fires out.
Well, the first section of this 7-84 doesn't talk about not doing anything underground. It simply talks about adopting the state mandate. In effect, asking us to cast a vote in the affirmative with the state mandate. And that's all it says. It doesn't talk about underground structures. It doesn't talk about banning charging stations. It simply says that 10% of the parking spaces, if you have over 30, have to have EV, or 10% of the parking spaces have to have EV charging stations. That's all it says. And we're being asked to vote in favor of that. And I'm suggesting that we ought to know what the cost of that is. And if the state of Connecticut is going to override Milford ordinance anyway, then we don't need to vote for this, right? That's already in place. It's going to stay in place whether we vote for it or not.
Correct. We are just following and using the same language as what the state uses, and then we're adding our own language to hopefully get these out from underneath the garages where the issue is.
I believe section 7-84 is just a referencing that state statute. When you are required to have that, then we're kicking in the fact that you can't have them in, prohibiting them in underground structures. I think it's just, am I correct, just a difference that we're just making a reference to that state statute and city regulation, not mandating that if they have it, you have to have it for the zoning requirements. We're just making reference to that. Once that kicks in, and you have to have that 10%, all right, your installation, like Chief Rabel was saying, Your installation, we're requesting that they be installed somewhere else instead of underground parking.
Yeah, but you're asking us to vote for it. That's the point. It's here, it's before
No, yeah,
us.
it's definitely,
Mr.
yeah, I'm
Chairman?
asking for the vote, yeah.
Let me ask you this.
Mr. Chairman? I'm sorry to interrupt you. Yeah, I'd like to call a vote.
I'm sorry?
I'd like to call a vote
You have to
on
call
this
for
issue,
vote.
yeah.
What? I have a whole bunch of questions I'd like to ask.
How many more questions you going to ask, Alderman Smith?
I got quite a few.
We're going to call this to a vote. If you don't want to vote for it, you don't have to vote for it.
I haven't even gotten, for example,
We're taking up enough time.
well, hold, can I just have a couple of more minutes here?
Also, I'd like to say that you guys have done a fantastic job. You're consummate professionals, and you've answered the questions very thoroughly. I'd like to call a vote.
Well, I'd like to note, for example, that in the first
Mr. Chairman.
section there, the Connecticut General Statutes 4B-779C doesn't exist. I mean, I
Mr.
just wanted
Chairman.
to work through, there's a typographical error in there. I think what they mean to say is 4B-77C, the 9, has never been enacted. Okay, so I'm going to ask, it'll be a friendly amendment to minimally amend that to have the correct statutory section. As well, I think that we should note that in 7-85, the second section, purpose and intents, it uses the term charging stations with capitals, which means it's a defined term, yet in the definitional section, there's no definition. There's no definition of charging stations. We're voting to ban something, we haven't defined it, we don't even know what it is. And maybe it's something, oh, I know one when I see one, like the old definition of obscenity, but this statutory definition section doesn't have a definition, and yet that is used as a defined term throughout the statutory framework here that we're being asked to vote upon. I wanted to raise these things at the public hearing. I was told I couldn't, and I wouldn't be allowed to, so I want to raise them now. I think this needs more work as to Section A, as well as the definitional section in Section B. Also, I heard here that, collapsing is a problem. I mean, if collapsing of the structure is a problem, the underground sections shouldn't be the place that we're focusing on. It should be the above ground sections, because underground sections don't collapse. If the collapsing is the biggest part of the problem, I mean, maybe underground sections could collapse, but it would seem to me that,
Mr.
above
Chairman,
ground sections.
This doesn't seem to be questioning. This seems to be you giving a speech. I haven't heard you ask a question to the chief
No,
or
I'm
any
asking,
of the fire chiefs.
wouldn't it be better to ban them in the upper sections if collapsing is the problem?
When they're in above ground, we have better ventilation, better way for the heat and the smoke to dissipate for us to be able to get close enough to actually attack the fire itself. That's why we would be allowed, like how the state codes don't mandate where they can go. That's why when they're underground, we're worried about the heat because we wouldn't even be able to get close to the vehicle to actually put any type of water on there. When they say copious amounts, we're going to be flooding the structure itself with, again, 20 to 40,000 gallons of water with that. So again, that might be messed with the structural stability of the structure itself with underground.
I took a look at some of the other building codes that are around, and are there any building codes that talk about banning charging stations in parking garages?
No, again, there's no codes that state banning them in underground parking garage. It just states how to install them. It does not say where you can and where you can't. Should you choose to install one, okay, if you follow the National Electric Code, Section 625 of how to install it, great. You did it right, we inspect, you're good to go. But moving forward, we're trying to take the proactive route of limiting the amount of fires associated with the charging stations underground parking garage.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to move the question to a vote.
I'm sorry, Alderman.
I make a motion to move the question to a vote.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Second.
There are people that may have questions. I don't think it was an adequate amount of people that were recognized.
You're going to summarize your questions, Alderman Smith?
Mr. Chairman, I asked if I could ask these questions during the public hearing section. I was told I could not. I was told I would have the opportunity to ask them during the regular session of the Board of Aldermen, and I have a fair number of questions.
If you want to amend the motion, you can. You seem to have a problem with the motion. So if you want to amend the motion, you can. Otherwise, we got to go vote on the motion.
Well, I haven't even touched upon the second section here. There is some, I think, some questions with respect to the 7-6, the fire apparatus access and water supply.
That's a different ordinance proposal.
We'll get to that one. We're going to be able to ask questions on that one?
Please.
I hope. No, I'm not actually done with the questions on the.
The purpose of this ordinance is to put an ordinance in place in the city of Milford to prevent fires that the chief has brought out. We're not, this is not a court of order. We're not in court right now. We're deciding if this ordinance is going to go through the city of Milford.
Mr. Chairman, it's not a matter of being in court. It's a matter of having questions on an ordinance and being asked to vote for it. We don't know what the cost of it is.
A quick Google search stated minimum cost effective would be around $500 to $600 per charging station for a level 2 charging station per the state statute for what you have to install.
500 to 600. I've actually seen literature that says 2,000 to 8,000.
Again, it is a quick Google search. Depending on your manufacturers where they come from, they have to meet certain UL standards for the building code of what device that you have to use.
I can see that there's anxiety over here over asking questions. I think this board ought to consider asking more questions. I can see you've got the vote, so if you want to call the question, you can. I don't think that the questions have been answered. I don't think the opportunity to ask them has even been given. You're asking us to cast votes on things where we have questions, we want to ask them, we've been denied the hearing, we're being denied at the board level. I think that warrants a no vote in and of itself. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any more discussion on the motion? Alderman Pacelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question directed towards Attorney Bertram, through you to Attorney Bertram. This builds a little bit on perhaps some of the other questions that might be going on in people's minds, and I'd like to find a way to focus the questions and maybe clarify, not to necessarily stifle discussion, but to just get to the point. And can you correct me if I'm wrong? Under this section 7-84, I think I heard that there may be a typo in there that we may want to address before we move forward. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. That's fine. So that's something we could consider if we're going to move forward. But can you clarify? I'm hearing from Alderman Smith that there's a belief that there's an additional cost being put forth to the developer because charging stations would have to be provided or added that otherwise might not be. My understanding is that this section 7-84 is a restatement, just referencing that there's a state statute that applies to the developers in the city of Milford, and that what we're really dealing with here is not a requirement to add a costly charging station, but rather the developer must have X amount of stations, and now we're talking about where to put them. And I would have to think it's probably less costly to put those on the ground level rather than down below, although I'm not sure that that's something we need to get into here. But again, just talking about the actual purpose of this section, 7-84, is to just reiterate that there is a state statute that's involved here, correct?
Mr. Chair, through you to Alderman Pacelli, as Deputy Fire Marshal Suden indicated, Section 7-84 is a recitation or reciting Public Act 22-25, which is now 4B-77 parens C and parens, to Alderman Smith's point with the typo. There is no such thing as 4B-779C. That state statute enacted in 2022 on or after January 1st, 2023, municipalities shall require, to your point, shall require each new construction of a commercial building or multi-unit residential building with 30 or more designated parking spaces for cars or light-duty trucks to include electric vehicle charging infrastructure capable of supporting level 2 electric vehicle charging stations. So, yes, to your point.
And then to take it a step further, the prohibition here, the new additional requirement that is not currently required by the state would be that those charging stations may not be underground. They have to be above ground. And the city will have some purview over approvals, site plans, and whatnot, so that when an application is being considered, the municipal authorities, the planning and zoning and otherwise, will be able to refer to this existing ordinance once it's in effect as far as assisting the developer in determining how to essentially plan that project, so that there would be an approval only given if that approval could be given in a way that's consistent with both the state and the local ordinance, which would seem to me to mean that you can tailor a project towards the requirements that we're giving to assist with the safety of life and property. Is that accurate?
Correct.
That's what we're trying to do. Thank you.
Alderman Smith.
So on the point of 7-84 being a recitation of the state statute, there is a lot of complaint and concern about the cost of construction in the state of Connecticut, the cost of living. There are people who are concerned about state mandates, and the fact that the state has imposed this mandate on the city of Milford does not mean that we have to vote for it. It's already there, it exists, we have to live with it, we don't have to like it, and we do not have to vote for it. And we're being asked here in 7-84 to vote for it, putting aside the other sections, and each one of these ordinances are their own section. That section is asking us to vote in favor of the mandate, and I'm suggesting that there are some of us, maybe only one of us, maybe only one or two, that would like to vote no on that section, because it doesn't enact anything new, it doesn't create anything that isn't already in place. In fact, if you wanted to do something meaningful with that section, you can say that there wouldn't be any requirement in the city of Milford for more than 10% of the parking spaces being required for charging stations. I mean, it's not unfair to think it through. They're giving us the authority in that last section to increase it if we wanted to 20% or 30%. But that's not what's before us. What I'm saying here is that I don't agree with the state mandate. I think the state was wrong. If I'd still been in the legislature, I would have voted against it. And
Mr. Chairman.
I would like the opportunity to vote
Mr.
against
Chairman,
it here.
I believe there's a motion on the floor to call the question, put together by Alderman Federico.
Can we have a few more people have some opinion here before we put it to a
Motion to
vote?
call the question.
Alderman Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, gentlemen. In simple terms, maybe simpler than we heard from the attorneys, the idea here is that pursuant to the Connecticut General Statute, we have nothing to do with the General Statute. This is a municipality. You need to talk to our representatives. This is already in place as I look at it. I can't dig deeper into that.
Point of order, please.
What? I can hear you.
Point of order. There is a motion on the floor, so when you were granted recognition to discuss, it was to discuss the motion that was calling for a vote, not the content of what was presented.
No, we're still in discussion of the motion.
We're discussing the motion. This is the whole ordinance. The issue that we don't have, I see it, that we don't have to vote for that. That's not part of the ordinance. I think the prohibition of what you guys are stating, and the way the ordinance is written is what we have to vote on. That's what I look at, Mr. Chair.
We didn't give everybody a chance to vote.
Some advice here before this fucking place blows up. Mr. Chair, can I finish? The general statutes were voted on by the Assembly, the Connecticut State Assembly, I would assume. That's already there. We can't change that. That's there. The prohibition, the intent, and the rest of it is what we're looking at. Is that simple enough? I would say that, and I just want clarification on something. 44 River Street, are they abiding by this new?
They already have approved plans, so we can't retroactively go back to mandate that they can't have them.
Even on 44, the new construction?
Yeah, with the signed lease, and I was talking with City Attorney Burgess.
And yet-
They have that. We asked, and they were willing, but then for them to meet that requirement, they said, well, no, we're approved site plans, so we're going to move forward.
That's too bad, because we're talking about the safety, health, and welfare of our community.
Oh, understandable.
You know?
Yeah, if we have
And
them
so,
all above ground,
so early in the stages, I already know that construction plan was changed already. I was on the TOD original committee, and they changed that. The plans, the elevate, whatever they did, they made some changes to it. But the fact is that the most obvious now are electric vehicles. What happens to that bicycle that becomes a motor vehicle because you put a battery on it? What happens to that skateboard? What happens to all of those other ways of transportation that kids are using, adults are using, scooters and so forth? I know that's a very minor kind of thing, but shouldn't that also be somehow incorporated into an ordinance that we are really looking out for our citizens as for the safety and their health and their welfare? And, agreeing or not agreeing, but the point is, I think that's early on in the construction that should be under these guidelines. But you guys are doing a fantastic job. I just look at this as, I don't think we should vote on that. It's a general statute. We can't change it. We can't do anything in it. But I think that the preceding sections that we can vote on, that would be my opinion. I don't know if I'm wrong. I don't know if I'm right. But it just seems like there's common sense here. Thank you.
Again, that section was just for a reference, so at least if a developer who came in didn't know about it and they saw it, they're like, oh, okay, that's a reference, there is a state statute, and then we must follow that we have to have a certain amount.
Mr. Chairman, there's a motion and a second.
I just want to make an amendment for housekeeping, because I told by the town attorney, the city attorney, that it's referring to the wrong section, so I just want to make an amendment by section 784 reference pursuant to Connecticut general statutes. It should be section 4B-77, parentheses C. Is that correct, John? Okay. So that's, I want to make a motion to amend it. So I'll have the correct statute.
Okay, we have an amendment on the floor. I'm looking for a second.
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 Amendment's on the floor and a second.
Yes.
Any discussion on the amendment? No discussion? We're voting on the amendment. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Amendment passes. On the original motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Roll call vote, Madam Chairman, Madam Secretary, I'm sorry. I gave you another
Mr.
raise.
Chairman, can we divide the question here? There might be sections that some of us would like to vote for, and other sections that we wouldn't. I'd like to make a motion to divide the question.
We just made a motion to put it for a vote. That's what we just did.
Well, you didn't even look over here, you just called a vote.
I looked on both sides. What are you talking about?
We did review it. He had more questions, too.
No, he's all done with his questions. And this side's all done with the questions. We took it for a vote. Madam Secretary, please take a roll call vote.
Alderman Archiola?
Yes.
Alderman Beatty? Alderman Bevan? Alderman Casey?
Yes.
Alderman Federico?
Yes.
Alderman Fowler?
Yes.
Alderman Healy?
Yes.
Alderman Jenkins?
Yes.
Alderman Marlowe?
Yes.
Alderman Mo Rennan?
Yes.
Alderman Pacelli? Alderman Smith?
No.
Alderman Vitro?
Yes.
Alderman Vitale? Alderman Willis?
Yes.
14 yeses, 1 no.
14 yeses and 1 no. The motion passes. Thank you, Madam Secretary. Alderman Pacelli, this is the second part of that ordinance.
Board Board of Aldermen approval is sought for an ordinance adopting Chapter 7, Article 1 in general, Section 7-6, fire apparatus, access, and water supply.
Motion on the floor and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Alderman Marlowe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, just reading through this, just for clarification, in paragraph B, it says, within close proximity to structures. What is defined close proximity?
So a fire department apparatus has to be within a certain amount of distance of a building to be able to stretch a hose line and advance it through a building. Per the codes that are stated within our ordinance, there's a minimum setback distance of 15 feet to a maximum of 30 feet when you have to set up an aerial apparatus itself. What we take into consideration is the collapse zone in case there is a structure fire that gets out of hand that would take out one of our apparatuses. So by the state codes that are still in play and the state codes that were deleted from the model code unedited versions give those set distances that are written within our fire department access and water supply.
Okay, so this isn't, I know what, it says any structure which is erected, I won't read through the whole thing, in close proximity. I know we do have streets in Milford that are tough to get a fire apparatus down. Do we see that this is going to change that in any way?
So it won't change already existing roads itself. So obviously the main roads are considered, again, that word term grandfathered in, they're already installed. It's when it comes into new developments and you're restructuring, relaying out the properties themselves, if you're going to have, again, like a multi-commercial development where you're going to have multiple access roads, this is your chance to get the proper size and installation for what it is that the fire department needs for operations. Again, if they're able to have certain areas where we're able to reach for aerial apparatus for whatever building height, then we try to make those buildings according to what is in Chapter 5 and Appendix D of the IFC to get for what it is that we need.
So just one last question through you, Mr. Chair. Do you see that with this, that in the future we'll be looking to change the type of apparatus? Will there be that we need to buy different equipment to comply with this better?
No. The fire trucks that we need, pretty much we just need new ones right now to replace the ones that we have. Those are regulated by NFPA for the certain size and structures, and you guys could confirm on that for what it is that you need to have to be able to carry them out. The fire pump size, the amount of tools that you need, and if you need to have an aerial apparatus, that takes into that consideration as well.
Thank you.
So we're not going smaller, is what I'm going to say.
Any more discussion on the motion? Alderman Smith.
Thank you. In Section A there, it says that any structure which is to be erected on any property abutting a street, highway, alley, easement, or right-of-way within the city of Milford shall be provided with fire apparatus access. Shall be provided by whom?
Shall be provided by whoever the developer is for that property itself, or wherever that project. Again, if you take a vacant land and you're going to be adding a certain structure on there, you shall provide within your building costs access for our fire department apparatus again to your structure to fight the fire itself.
And is it true that still north of the Wilbur Cross Parkway that there aren't water mains up there?
That I don't know of. Again, I only focus here on Milford. So for water mains, you're talking about if they had to do like tanker drills and stuff like that?
Well, there's I think north of the Wilbur Cross, there's no water mains, there's no sewers, and
I live in Weathersfield. I got water and sewer everywhere, so I'm north of Wilbur Cross.
North of the Wilbur Cross, the Great River Golf Club area.
Within the city of Milford. All right, sorry, I thought you were saying just
Right.
north.
We only have a few unhydrated areas in our whole entire city.
I didn't hear that.
We only have a few unhydrated areas in our city. That's you're close up by the Merritt Parkway. You got up Red Route and some on Fresh Meadow and A Strab Lane.
And so what would happen in those areas if someone wanted to build a house and they had to provide fire apparatus access and adequate water supply?
We have a relay system set up there, so if there is a structure fire, we will send multiple units up there, drop hose at certain points, and be able to pump enough water into that area. But what we're talking about, those roads are existing at this present time. Okay, if someone was to build up there, they're going to have to put in a whole hydrant system in that area.
But not if they're building a house on an existing road.
If they're putting in a house on an existing road, they're gonna have to put a new water main down that road.
So on those areas in Milford that don't have water mains right now, there are existing houses. I understand you've got pumping ability so you can get the water in there. But this is saying if the next person next door wants to build a house on a vacant lot, they have to run the water main down the street?
For an no, again, he misspoke. For an existing road itself, no, they do not have to do that. When they are doing a site development, when it requires to have water supply because of sprinkler requirements or standpipe connections, then they would have to bring that main into that structure itself. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I thought it was easier than that, but to tell you the truth, I think I heard two different things there. I heard one said that even if you build a new house on an existing road, that they're going to have to run a water main, and I think you just said something different.
If you're gonna build a new road off of that existing road, you're gonna have to bring a new water main.
Okay, a new road, you need to bring the water line all the way down the existing road and then up the new road.
Per the ordinance, yes, and C.
And what's the cost of that?
Again, if we went by a certain project that I talked, we're looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars if it happens. So we are in contact with the Regional Water Authority for those areas, so over the next number of years to be able to install a certain section of the underground main to get adequate water supply to all those houses in those areas that don't have proper underground fire service mains.
And if I could, then in section D, it says that the Board of Fire Commissioners shall have exclusive jurisdiction of the hydrants. Is that a change? How is that a change from what exists now?
So that's in the charter itself. That's language that references the charter for what it is, that the Board of Fire Commissioners have jurisdiction over all hydrants that we have. We just don't have an ordinance. We only have regulations stipulating what is required for the city of Milford for water supply in different areas, whether it's 1 or 2 family dwellings, multifamily, commercial, or industrials, the certain size, the certain gallons per minute, and the certain color itself. It really gets down pinpoint to it. This just states that they have jurisdiction over it in case they want to change it per the if it was a regulation. Now we're trying to make it a city law to where they would have to have the approval first before it's sent up to you guys for final approval.
So what's the status of things right now? If this
Right
went on,
now, it's a
yeah.
regulation. We have a hydrant regulation that was established back in 2010. It's outdated and doesn't meet the current state codes that we enforce through Chapter 5 of the IFC, Appendix D of the IFC, which is the International Fire Code, nor NFPA 1 for the Fire Prevention Code.
So how does this change things?
Has it changed these? Because those codes in October of 2022, the codes that were great for us for what we had were deleted. So the only way to get certain apparatus access to certain commercial properties, you'd have to negotiate with the site developer to state what your operations are to be able to get fire department access and water supply to those areas. Once you make this into an ordinance, then it's law for what it is that those codes already had before that weren't deleted.
You're welcome. Alderman Jenkins.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Just a real quick question, forgive my ignorance. When a new road would be built off an existing road or a new development goes in and we talk about adequate water supply being required, is that on the responsibility and onus of the builder, or is that city responsibility for those areas?
It would all depend. So if it's going to be a private road, then it falls under the developer itself. But if it's going to be a public road that's required for the zoning requirements, then it might be a city requirement. Then again, when we would mandate a certain hydrant, can be overruled by the mayor and the Board of Aldermen itself.
So this would come down to a case-by-case basis, and that would be based on the zoning plans and whether it's approved or not as a development period. Got it, thank you.
Any more discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Roll call vote, Madam Secretary, please.
Alderman Archiola?
Yes.
Alderman Beatty?
Yes.
Alderman Bevan? Alderman Casey?
Yes.
Alderman Federico?
Yes.
Alderman Fowler?
Yes.
Alderman Healy?
Yes.
Alderman Jenkins? Alderman Marlowe?
Yes.
Alderman Mulbrennan?
Yes.
Alderman Pacelli?
Yes.
Alderman Smith?
No.
Alderman Vitro?
Yes.
Alderman Vitale? Alderman Willis? 14 yes, 11 no. The 1 no, I'm sorry.
14 yes and 1 no. Motion passes. Thank you, Madam Secretary. Thank you, gentlemen,
Thank you.
for
Thank you.
answering all the questions for us. Are there any other reports from any standing committees? Seeing none, we'll move on to agenda item 13. Are there any reports of any special committees?
Mr. Chair?
Alderman Morenin.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to report on the Board of Health. As many of you may know, the Board of Health is also part of the Human Services. They're both in 2 different locations. The Health Department is next to the main fire department by the library, and Human Services is on the academy. So at this point, we have some ARPA funds left over for looking to make those 2 entities under the same roof, if not under the same roof, at least in the same location. So there's 3 proposals coming forward to the next meeting, which we're excited about. One may potentially be to move to Bethel, which is moving next to Bridges, so that opens up Bethel. The other is potentially Siemens Lane. And then the third one, Human Services is at the Academy to potentially build the new construction at the Academy to have them kind of a campus effect. So we're excited about that for the Board of Health, and more to come to share to let you know what those plans end up being.
Thank you, Alderman Morenin. Is there any other reports of special committees? Yes, Alderman Fowler.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chairman. I was going to elaborate more on the Board of Education budget, but we have it in front of us. But just for everyone who has stuck around, the proposed budget that's before us for the Board of Education has increased by 4.7% and is basically comes down to 111 million. Over $111 million. So just wanted to say that for the record.
Thank you, Alderman Fowler. Any other? Yes, Alderman Bevan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A report on Council on Aging. It's not the amount of money that Alderman Fowler just mentioned, but it does need to be mentioned that the mini lunch and the sandwich prices are going up from $3 to $3.50. Thank you.
Alderman Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. Golf Commission. Reported last month that the amount of rounds was incredible, almost 35,000 rounds. We're also opening up periodically, so you can play golf down there periodically. And one of the innovative initiatives that has been talked about is to make the putting green, if everybody's familiar with that area there, putting green, a miniature golf, for making the whole orchards a more family-friendly place to be. And I think that's a fantastic idea. It'll bring families in, a little festivities there. So again, they're doing a fantastic job there, and it's going well. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Vitale. Is there any other special committee reports? Alderman Federico.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the board, I just want to report on a couple actions from the Sewer Commission meeting on January 24th. The sewer commissioners approved the plans for the proposed residential shelter and soup kitchen at 933 Bridgeport Ave. And they also awarded a contract to Kovacs for about $1.3 million for the Housatonic WWTP upgrades. This is related to ABC Athletic Brewing Company, and it was funded by a bond from ABC. That's it.
Thank you, Alderman Federico. Any other special committee reports? Alderman Healy.
Just on the Fire Commission, collectively, representatives of this board have been speaking with the Fire Commission and with the senior officers, and we're looking for a date for the Board of Aldermen to come to Siemens Lane facility. The purpose of it would be they want to demonstrate to us a number of the functions, the equipment, so that when we're hearing about different fire apparatus and procedures that they use, we'll be able to, better discern their needs and operational aspects for their mission of public safety. So we'll be looking for a date from the board and circulate that in the future.
Thank you, Alderman Healy. Looking forward to that. Any other special committee reports? Seeing none, we'll move on to the adjournment. Can I have a
Motion to adjourn.
Motion's made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor? Opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.